My name is Simon Freitas. I am 26 years old and I'm calling in from Columbus, Ohio.
How long have you lived in Columbus for?
I actually just moved here in September of 2022. So originally I'm from Boston, but I came down here because the price, like the cost of living down here is so much cheaper.
So you moved there 2 years ago. Where'd you come from before that?
I grew up in Boston, and then I went to school at the University of New Hampshire. I came back to live with the folks for about 5 years, and then I had this job with HubSpot that allowed me to work remotely. So I had a friend down here in Columbus who said he had an extra bedroom that I could stay in, so I joined his apartment complex, and then I basically was just deciding I am not gonna be living with roommates anymore. Like, it was just a temporary situation. So I moved out on my own, and now I'm pretty happily living all by myself in a 2-bedroom.
What did you study at University of New Hampshire?
I studied social work. It wasn't the whole time I was going throughout school, they kept telling me, you're not going to make any money, you're kind of screwed. And then I ended up leaving social work at like the base level and trying to use those skills of like project management. And I also minored in theater at UNH. So that's how I ended up at HubSpot as like a nonprofit program manager. So I took those skills and I turned it into something that I could get into the tech field with, but it was still focused on the nonprofit side of things.
What are your future career goals? You want to stay? Are you still at HubSpot right now?
No, HubSpot laid me off a couple months ago, along with about 500 other people in the US, and then they continued the layoffs across Europe. So I am currently a freelance artist, doing some editing, doing some dog walking. Actually, I'm going to be watching these people's dogs tomorrow for Memorial Day weekend. And then otherwise, I'm trying to get back into project management because I feel like there is a lot of money to make there. But in the long term, there's always the artist dream of just quitting your day job and being an artist full time, but it's not as sustainable financially. So I am hoping that eventually I get to do that. But before that I get to, climb the corporate ladder, become a director of something, and just leave my mark on the world, and then go do my dream as an artist and be a famous actor, see me on Netflix or something like that.
Love it. You got to pursue the passions and have a dream. Curious, I guess, when it comes to HubSpot or previous role, how much were you making at that previous job?
So it started off as a contract role of like $20 an hour. And then I got offered a full-time gig a few months in, and I was making $70K. So that was insane when I got offered that, because I remember like I mentioned, all throughout college, I kept being told, like, you're a social worker, you're not going to make any money. And even my supervisor at my homeless shelter internship was saying she made barely over 30K. And that was in New Hampshire. So I guess in Massachusetts, you do make a little bit more because the minimum wage across state lines is a little different. But it was still really, just jarring to hear the difference of like, okay, 40,000, 50,000, and then like, all right, so you're going to start off with us with 70K. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go.
That's definitely a big jump in the social world. Social work world is definitely a difficult one to try to make a lot of money in. There's not the careers in that one there. I mean, you do a lot for the community, help a lot of people in need in those types of fields. But in terms of trying to get paid a 6-figure salary, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to do that, especially just in starting off your career in the social work world. So
yeah,
definitely, I understand going from 20 an hour to 70K a year is obviously a big jump and great spot to be in. But obviously in the tech world right now, it's been obliterated across the world with layoffs and job cuts and everything else in that sector. So
oh yeah,
when was
hard.
that layoff took place?
That took place in February.
So what have you been doing since February? I guess you said you've been doing editing, dog walking. What else have you been doing since then? Or what's your current goals with the career?
I've just been trying that. Well, the goal is not to run out of, the hope is not to run out of money, because I did get a good severance payment, thank God. When I got put on full time, I was allowed to, well, not allowed, but I was entitled to benefits. So part of that was a hefty severance pay. And then along with the past few months of just trying to take care of myself, as well as really figuring out how not to get laid off again, because you can't really see what the future holds. But uh, it's been hard. Like, it's been a really big adjustment, because you try to build up this career in this one space, and then you see how anything can happen. Companies just not built for success, or even if it is, then they just can't handle the amount of people that they've taken on. So like I said, I've been doing the dog walking. I've been taking on artistic work. Even I met you through Backstage, so I've been applying like crazy for acting jobs. My friend's been saying he wants me to do some artistic commissions for him, and I'm like, you know what? I do some visual designs. They're not really my forte, but if you want me to. So I am a freelance artist. I do pick up little side gigs here and there, but they are not as sustainable as a full-time day job. So really my focus has been just getting back in the corporate world and getting those benefits on my side, versus like just trying to figure out how to keep food on the table with all these hundreds and hundreds of side gigs.
Makes sense, and definitely a tough spot to be in. And being laid off is not a fun spot to be in, and have to figure out, okay, how can I get back in this world? How can I find new full-time opportunities and use the connections I do have to find something? Because it is job market. There's a lot of jobs out there, but also a lot of different industries have pulled back job offers and rescinded offers and have cut workforce. So definitely is not an easy spot to be in. So commend you for finding side gig opportunities, dog walking, artistic work, freelance stuff, to start making sure that you're at least bringing in some income while you're continuing to find a new job. So I do have I want to take it back a little bit though to your childhood. What was your childhood like? You grew up in Boston. What was your childhood like?
To be honest, I didn't really grow up around a lot of money. Like, my parents weren't too well off, but my grandmother was. So it was really interesting. Like, we would lean on her when we needed some financial support. Like, if I did a lot of marching band, percussion ensemble, those kinds of things instead of sports. So if we needed to help pay for the costumes, or I remember specifically buying the Converse sneakers because I didn't really like wearing Converse. I wasn't a skater. But like in that that year, like, we called my grandmother up, and she always liked buying stuff for us because she was very financially well off. But my dad is a construction worker. He's a painter, and my mom's a travel agent. So she makes her money off commission. My dad makes his money off of whatever the work is. And during the winter time, he really didn't have a lot of work at all. So I'd kind of see him on the couch a lot of days when it was, he can't work outside. But recently he's lucky. I've been seeing him. He got a full-time job with a painting company, but kind of wish that happened a lot more when I was a kid.
So how did your parents approach money? And did they ever talk about money when you were growing up?
They only really told me that they couldn't afford stuff. They didn't really give us that financial conversation. I think the biggest introduction to really have like an understanding of finances was after I graduated college, and I was hit up by someone they wanted to sell me life insurance, and I was like, okay,
No.
oh yeah, it sounded like a scam up the yin yang. And I was like, let's just see what happens. I got nothing going on. Let's just talk to her. And then she was like, we could talk about every single thing on earth. And I was like, I don't want life insurance. I think I'm good. And then she was like, let's talk about anything else then. Like, do you know what a Roth IRA is? Do you know what this kind of account is? And I was like, no, I don't. And then like she started telling me about all these different kinds of bank accounts, and I really started actually learning about how you could start investing money, and that was something I was interested in. So I started working with New York Life. I might have been skipped, but like I feel like from there I started looking more into the different types of savings accounts you can have, because I only really knew at that time about like, you have a checking, you have a saving, you have a credit card, but I didn't know about the different kind of tax benefits that you had or anything in that area. I always just kind of knew like, my dad has horrible credit. My mom is always, just trying to make commissions, and I'm just going to not even deal with a credit card having anything on it because I don't want to end up in any financial bad situation.
Makes sense. And yeah, it's a lot to learn in the financial world, and that's why part of the reason I wanted to start this is help educate people. I mean, a lot of people don't know what a Roth IRA is, or what a 401k is, or how to appropriately contribute to it, or how much should they contribute to it, or how much should I be saving if my retirement goal is to do it in the next 30 years, the next 40 years, the next 10 years. There's a lot of different things about it, whether it's Roth IRA or Roth 401k versus traditional 401k, or a checking account versus savings account versus a high yield savings account versus a credit card versus debit card. And people will start finding themselves in spots where they get hit up with credit card companies that, hey, open this account, open this other account. And then you find yourself in a load of credit card debt and find yourself with 25, 30% interest rates on those credit cards. You can never pay them off. So it's definitely can be a dangerous world to play in if you don't play it correctly, or unless you educate yourself correctly. So I think that's good that you at least, I'm glad that she started explaining something about Roth IRAs and stuff of that nature to you. The life insurance world, I'm a pro term life insurance person. If you have dependents underneath you, whole life insurance or the universal life insurance policies, I would never commend or suggest people to do those. I think term life insurance is a better policy to get, especially if you have children. It's cheaper and you don't need a whole life insurance policy. But
why do you say that?
so whole life insurance is typically a cost more. I forget what the figure is, and I can look real quick. Term versus whole life. Typically, whole life insurance is a fraction of the cost. So you'll typically pay about 5.8 times. This is the first article I can find on Google, so take it with a grain of salt. But you'll typically pay 5.8 times more for a whole life policy versus a term life policy. And with whole life policies, there's a lot of fees up front. So if you pay someone $300 or $400 a month or $200 a month for a whole life policy, a lot of that is actually fees going towards the broker initially, versus a term life insurance policy, you're paying a fraction of that, and you're going to that cash payment. If you, in the unfortunate circumstance, you die, then you're going to be getting that cash payment. Whole life insurance, there's a lot of different fees, policies. There's a cash value, which is what a lot of people say this is why you should do it. It's an investment vehicle, but honest opinion is I think you're better off getting a term life insurance policy and investing the difference into good index funds. And I mean, if you're saving a couple $100 a month between term and whole life insurance, or whether it's 50 or 100 or $150, putting that into index funds versus putting in a whole life insurance policy, I think you're better off in that world. And there's just a lot of fees when it comes to whole life insurance policies that go to the brokers, go to people that try to sell it to you. So Dave Ramsey or Ramit Sethi, any of these financial guys on the internet, if you look up Dave Ramsey or Ramit Sethi when it comes to whole life insurance versus term life insurance, they both like to obliterate whole life insurance policies, and a lot of other people do too. So, yeah. But
yeah, because that's definitely the one that she was pushing on me at the time.
Understandably, from a commission standpoint, on her side, she gets paid more when you sign up. So that's why those products are pushed for you. They're not necessarily pushed for you in your best interest. They are pushed for incentives that are in their favor. So, yeah, it's a tricky world when a lot of people sell you this stuff. They sell you a dream, and it might not necessarily be in your best interest. It's in their best interest when it comes to
that. Makes sense.
Anyone watching, look up Dave Ramsey or Ramit Sethi whole life insurance policies or thoughts. You'll find it on Google, and I'll leave it to them to explain it, the inner weeds of it. So when it comes to your upbringing, you said your parents didn't come from a lot of money, asking grandma for help at certain times. It's great to have a grandmother that was able to help you and help you through some of those times. What do you think? How do you think that shaped your current financial habits? Just seeing your parents, how they operated with money and how they made money. How do you think that shaped who you are today?
I mean, it definitely made me appreciate like the big expensive things that I have, because even as a kid, when I wanted a new game, or like I was a big gamer as a kid, like I liked to play the DS, I wasn't really a PlayStation person, but like, the GameCube, the Wii, like all those things, like that was usually like the big thing I waited for Christmas. So like nowadays I've kind of transitioned into like, all right, the new MacBook, like, it's like trading in for those things. Like I really do appreciate the value of it more versus just, I kind of talked to some of my friends that were raised more affluently, and I see how like they get that instant gratification, and it's just automatically, okay, cool, it's all good, and they're on to the next thing. So I feel like it's it's more of like that sense of accomplishment for like, okay, great. I actually have what's on the market, like the newest freaking thing. And like, I'm really proud of myself that I actually could get there versus like, of course I would have this thing. Like, why wouldn't you have a MacBook? Like, it's like, especially seeing a lot of my friends that I was raised with, like, they didn't have computers. Like we would all do our homework at the library on the public things. It really makes me like, have that mindfulness of where I came from versus where I am now.
Yeah, makes sense. What did anyone? So your parents didn't talk much about money with you growing up. Did anyone, or is really that insurance broker the first person that kind of started talking to the interweavings about money?
Well, I'd say that was like my first like real understanding of money. Like obviously, as you're growing up, like people are kind of teaching you about the economics, like, economic class, and you're seeing the different levels that you're in, like as you go to someone else's house and they have like, for instance, like I always wanted a dog and I lived in an apartment building. So it probably didn't make a lot of sense to have a dog. But then I'd go to my cousin's house and she was a lot richer than or not richer. She was a lot more well off than I was, and they had multiple dogs, and they had a big backyard and a pool and ATVs and stuff. So it just, when I started seeing things like that, it didn't click as a kid. But then as an adult, now that I start thinking about like, oh, well, in the future, I want to buy a house. And I'm like, this is when I can actually like get a German Shepherd. Like, it's like while I'm in this apartment, I might be able to get a Corgi, but now I'm starting to understand where my parents were coming from of like, good God, Simon, we're not getting a freaking dog right now.
No one else Shepherd, an 80-pound Shepherd in your one-bedroom apartment, and it's having a dog in an apartment.
Oh, yeah. So I feel like it was like coming to the awareness at that time, but like it really has been like solidified as an adult.
Yeah, makes sense. Just being on the term versus whole life insurance, I found another article. It says the average cost for, again, this is average cost for a 20-year term policy for term life insurance for $500,000 in coverage is $28 a month. The average cost for a $500,000 coverage amount for whole life insurance is $540 a month. So that's over $500 a month difference in cost difference. Obviously, with whole life insurance, they have cash value. You can take loans against it, technically, and some other things. But in my personal opinion, Dave Ramsey or Ramit Sethi, any of these financial experts out there in the world, they will obliterate whole life insurance any day of any time of the day. So just want to throw that reference out there too in terms of cost. $500 a month difference is a substantial amount of money that is typically going into the broker's pocket. So
yeah, that's pretty insane. I mean, they weren't selling me anything that high, but that is still really nuts to hear. Like,
yeah. So I want to dive in. You previously, I guess, first and foremost, let's just start here. How did you find your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm not happy. I mean, like, let's just say 4. Yeah, as I mentioned, I was not planning on being laid off. So I don't think anyone is. So It's just, I am very upset, and I'm really glad with the severance pay that I got, but I would much rather be employed.
Yeah, definitely understand that. And it's not something you can plan for. And is happening to people across the world, is figuring out, okay, how can I rebound from this, and how can I figure out my situation moving forward? Let's go through right now. Obviously, you lost your job. You're making $70,000 a month prior to being laid off in February. What's your current income at?
I have unemployment income, so I get like $2,400 a month. And then when I do side gig things, if they're not like, if it's just like a friend who's doing stuff under the books, then I get to add to it. But if not, then it takes away. And otherwise, if I do things that make over $600 a month, or $600 a week, then I get to not claim for the week, or, I'll put in the unemployment stuff that like, hey, I made over 600, and then I end up not qualifying, or they end up just having a non-payment. But yeah, it ends up being about $2,400 a week.
So currently living off of unemployment with a few side jobs here and there, but
yeah,
like motivating you as much to find other side gigs or opportunities because of the unemployment.
Mainly the side gigs are like, we're doing this because first of all, as an artist, I want to have it like, just keep building like these skills and having these things to keep promoting. And then also because I just I'm hoping to get a day job any freaking day now. It's like, and then when I have a day job, then this just becomes extra income instead of income that's just here. Like,
Makes sense. And so you're about $2,400 a month right now, living off unemployment. Where are your monthly expenses at right now?
or,
I have them in front of me, so I want to just see what you have on the top of your head, and then I want to dive into some.
well, I got rent, is about 1,200, and then I got my phone bill, I got my car, I got insurance for the car. It ends up basically breaking even. Like I mean, like with all the stuff that I end up doing, yeah, it ends up pretty much breaking even. I was doing so well when I was making 70K, and now I'm just like,
Yeah, looking at your expenses right now, I mean, the budget you turned in about $2,500 a month in expenses, bringing in about $2,400. So spending $100 more a month than you're making off unemployment right now. But if when you're making $70,000, bringing in probably home net $4,500 a month, you have a good buffer in that to spend more money, etc. But obviously, when unemployment or when layoffs hit, there's not much you can do about it in that sense until you find a new gig. So you definitely, if you're in the same spending habits prior to being, or when you're employed, you're in a good spot at that point.
yeah, which is exactly why I just want to get back on this employment train. Chugga.
Let's dive into your current debts. What are your current debts you have right now?
Honestly, I don't have too many. I just have my car and student loans. I keep my credit cards pretty low. I used a big chunk of the severance pay to pay off the debts that I had at the time, just so that I would be ahead of things. So the car is
21,000.
21, yeah, and then student loans are 19, and then credit cards are 1,000 at
You
this
have
point.
$1,000 of credit card loans right now too.
Yeah. Well, it's not a loan; it's just debt that.
Or credit card debt.
Yeah, I haven't paid yet for this month.
Let's go into the car. When did you buy this car?
I bought the car out because the lease was ending, so I didn't want to lose the car and have no way of getting around in Columbus. So I ended up buying the car in April.
So I guess a month and a half after you got laid off, your lease was ending, and they said, "Hey, you can finance this with us for $21,000 or $22,000 and 8% interest rate, or not." And you took the deal.
Mm-hmm.
What went through your mind during that time? Did you ever think you shouldn't do this? Did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was your thought process?
I was sitting there as I was filing the paperwork, telling the guy, maybe this is an impulse decision. And he goes, really? And I was like, yeah, I think this is a bad idea. And he was like, are you sure? And he like really like questioned me. And I was just like, you know what? If let's just go through with it. And I just, yeah. So here we are.
Carson was not going to do his bad gig because he's getting a commission check, probably you signing those papers right there.
Mm-hmm. And I am a people pleaser, and I am not the person it's very hard for me to say no, and I'm also very afraid of not being able to have a car. So it is.
Did you ever think you should look at other cars, or be like, hey, what's a $10,000 Toyota Corolla look like, so that you're not, frankly, being unemployed, signing or financing a $22,000 car is not the smartest thing in the world to do.
I hear that. Yeah. No, I did think about other cars.
Did you ever look at other cars?
I'm going to be honest. I did not want to lose the luxury of the car that I have now. And
what kind of car is it?
It's a 2020 Tiguan.
2020 Tiguan?
Yeah. Like, I really like the car. Like, there are some things that I am a little bit annoyed about it, but like, other than that, it's kind of my baby. Like, it's like.
So it was an emotional decision, not a.
It was, yeah.
Intelligence decision.
It came from the heart. It came less from the pocket than the heart.
Because that's, if I could rate that financial decision on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 1.1.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the standpoint of, if you're a full-time employed and you're like, okay, I'm anti car loans any time of the day, whether it's you're buying a $20,000 car and you're full-time employed, or have however much money in the world, I'm all for paying for cars in cash. And if you can't pay for it in cash, you can't afford it. Obviously, in a situation where your car if you don't have cash and your car lease is ending and you're like, okay, I need a car, I would highly suggest not financing the $20,000 car, but hey, what can I do at a $7,000 to $8,000 range? It's a used car. It's not going to be pretty, quite frankly, and that's the decision you were facing. I don't want to give up this nice, sleek looking Tiguan. I don't want to go sit in a 2010 Toyota Camry or Corolla for the next couple of years. But at the same time, you're going to feel that probably every single month, that $400 coming out of your bank account for that Tiguan.
Yeah, but I'm also a big guy. So like if I was in a small car, it just would be miserable. Like I'd
Have you
feel
seen Shaq in small car commercials?
no.
I think it's one's Lincoln. I think Shaq's gets in those cars. I mean, people. I'm big. I'm 6'3". I've driven small cars. I do have a truck. I have a 2008 truck. It's an old truck. It's got 190,000 miles on it. But I've driven plenty of small cars in my day. My mother had a Mini Cooper one time. I would drive that thing around, and I had no issues when it came to space in that. So I've got plenty of friends that are taller than me that have small sedans. And I guess I would be more uncomfortable with a $22,000 car loan than I would be being in a car that I did not have a $20,000 loan on. So,
well,
I guess what's your plan with the car moving forward? Are you going to try to figure out how to make more money so you can pay this off quicker? Because an 8% interest rate also is, quite frankly, high too when it comes to interest rates.
yeah, I plan on paying it off quicker than the actual like loan is out for.
Is it a 5-year
again,
loan or a 6-year loan?
6. I think it's 6. So again, I'm not banking on being unemployed for very long. If it's worst case scenario and I don't get a full-time job in the next few months, we're just going to take up a bunch of really small or good paying like side gigs and just have that going for a little bit, because I can't, as you can see with my finances, this is not sustainable. But I am just at the point of I'm not giving up that car, and I'm not giving up that car yet. Like I unless it's for something better, I'm not doing it. Like it's not a bad car.
How many miles does it have on?
30,000.
30,000. So is it a S trim?
I don't know what that means.
SE?
SE? Yeah.
SE, SEL.
Yeah, SE.
So I mean they're about $23,000 according to Carfax right now, 24, 25 for your area. But you're dead set on not giving up the car anytime soon, unless
No, I just until it's like until I'm willing to like just at this time, it's like I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with figuring out a new car. Like there's just so much other things being a Massachusetts resident coming to Ohio and like figuring out like still getting a new driver's license, like all that stuff that I like, I just got my health insurance stuff processed. Like there's just so many like things that are still coming up on my radar of like, good God, like I can't believe I haven't done this yet. I'm not thinking about like that is like a constant from Massachusetts that I'm like, this thing's at least staying for a little bit. Like
I can debate you all day on that, but I think that car is going to be more of a burden than it is a luxury, just due to the amount it is, and the amount of your current paycheck. Obviously, being unemployed right now, that is going to be. I mean, my hope and goal for you is be getting a full-time job in the next couple of weeks with the application that you're applying to, and then it will be as big of a burden. I still want you to say, okay, how can I pay this off the next 12 months? You get another $70,000 a year job. But with that in student loans, I mean, that's coming up this summer where payments are going to be resuming on that. Have you started thinking about that?
I have. I've thought about what if Joe Biden actually comes through, like what if it actually gets forgiven, which is why I am kind of rolling the dice with those, because I did get
you want to depend on the government for coming through in instances like this. Like, don't get me wrong, I think them erasing $10,000 of student loan debt would change a lot of people's lives. But if we can't depend on the government to fix our roads or do anything efficiently, do you want to sit here and hope and pray that they're going to be your saving grace?
So no, not 100%. But the thing with me is that I got Pell Grants, so I would get 20,000 forgiven. So I don't want to pay if it's just going to get forgiven. I would want to pay once it's actually definite, like, I'm screwed, I'm definitely going to have to pay, this is what it is, versus I'm paying, I'm making payments, this much money is going towards that, and then come June, they make a decision, all this money's gone, and then all that money from my paychecks up until this point was, I was paying that for no reason, that it could have gone to something else.
When will monthly payments resume on those, and what's that amount going to be?
I actually don't know. I think, is it August or is it? I know the amount is
June 30th.
June 30th. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
is what I'm seeing right now.
yeah, so if it doesn't get forgiven, then it'd be June 30th,
Right.
July.
60 days after June 30th.
Oh, so yeah,
So
end of August.
if it's not been implemented and resolved by June 30th, then payments will resume 60 days after. So
Yeah,
you have some time. Obviously, I think with being unemployed right now, I don't think with those being paused right now, I don't think that should be your main focus in terms of your debts. Car payment, first and foremost, credit card debts. When those get resumed, obviously you're going to have monthly obligations to that and figure out, okay, what's my plan of action to pay this off too? But it does buy you some time, at least until the end of August, that you won't have you making payments. So that gives you at least 3 full months to find a job and figure out, okay, what's happening here? You need to get an income in the door first and foremost, and then figure out the student loans.
excuse me. Yeah, no, that's definitely kind of what I've been writing on, of just, can it just go away? Like, like, can someone just, and if it's not, can someone just make a freaking decision already? Like,
I think that's, I don't disagree with that. Is like, I think everyone that's in your shoes is like, they just want to know, because they want to know, and they like the whole what if situation is just tying up a lot of people. Like, hey, I don't even take action on this, or I don't even want to do this because what if? And that's going to cause a lot of people to be in worse situations because they're not going to think about it. They're going to start spending money elsewhere, and that might not happen, and they're going to be in a position where they can't afford to make those monthly payments, so they're spending money elsewhere. So I think that needs to happen quickly to really just frankly help people not have that what if situation, and it goes one way or the other. If it does get wiped, then great. People have that decision. They know that. And if it doesn't, great. I need to start paying these off. Do you have a goal of paying them off? I guess prior to you being laid off, did you have a goal of trying to pay these off by a certain time period, or you're just waiting for the entire repayment situation to unfold?
Before that all went on pause, then I was making the monthly payments. Like, my payment was $200 a month, which I was lucky. I really don't have too many like loans. And I consolidated it so that, like, it wasn't like 7 different loans building interest. It was just one. But I didn't have like an end date specifically of like when I wanted it to get done. I just was like putting a little bit extra over so that it would hopefully go towards the principal. But yeah, I'd say I just generally was overpaying. Kind of what I'm doing with my car payments now, of like, if the payment every month is like $370, then I pay $400 a month.
Yeah. I mean, I think frankly what I would do if I was in your situation is, from the sound of it, is obviously get a full-time job, pay off this car, figure out the car situation. Frankly, if I was in your shoes, I would probably sell the car tomorrow for $24,000 if I could get that, and take that $3,000 and either find a $3,000 or $4,000 beater car, or, okay, can I finance $5,000 worth of a car and buy an $8,000 or $9,000 car? And that way my monthly payment is like $100 a month versus $400 a month. You don't have $20,000 in card debt. And then, okay, great. Let's figure out what's happened with this student loan repayment situation, and then let's start attacking that.
So you're saying I could just, even though I just bought the car, I could sell the car?
No one's stopping you from that. You own the car. You have the title. Obviously, you do owe money on the loan. So if you did sell for $15,000, you would owe $7,000 difference on the loan to the bank. But you could sell the car tomorrow for $25,000 and pay off that entire loan. You'd be good there, and you could take the remaining money and go buy another car.
Okay.
Which, personally, if I was in your shoes, I would look at that situation, because $400 a month is not a small payment, especially bringing in $2,400 a month in unemployment right now. You don't have the money to be doing that. Yeah. And I mean, based off your current expenses, you're spending over $100 a month, and that's not including the budget and the food expenses that you didn't account for based off of the credit card purchase I see, you're spending really $1,000 a month on food, not $100 a month or $200 a month of food, which is in your budget. So really you're in the red like $500, $600, $700 a month at least. And $400 of that is from your car payment. So honestly, I would consider that. First and foremost, obviously you need to find a job, need to find full-time employment. But besides that, it's like this car is going to drag you down, whether it's now or in the future when you do get a job. You're still going to be paying $400 a month to the bank for the car.
I never even thought I could sell it. I don't know why that didn't even cross my mind. I mean, probably because it started off as a lease, so I just kind of thought I have no collateral. But okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. But
just something honestly to think about.
Yeah.
It's like how would you feel with not having a car payment?
Okay, that would be great. Don't get me wrong, but getting around here without a freaking car, that is not possible. Like,
I'm not saying don't have a car at all. Okay, we'll look up like 2010 Toyota Camry or do a Corolla. Columbus, Ohio. You can get one, a used 2010 Toyota Corolla has 100,000 miles on it for $9,500. Is it the prettiest thing in the world? Is it going to be as nice as your Tiguan? Is it going to be as updated? No, it's not. Is it going to get you from point A to point B? Yes, it is. And that's really, especially in a spot being unemployed, especially being in a spot where you have student loan debt, you have credit card debt. I mean, frankly, your net worth right now is negative $45,000 essentially. And 20,000 of that is your car. And it's like, if you could erase all but like $5,000 of it, that takes you from a negative $45,000 net worth to negative $30,000. Races, or sorry, my math's wrong on that. You'd go from just $20,000, $40,000 is in debt, negative net worth, to about $20,000. So I'd cut that debt in half, and you'd be in a spot where you're in a much better position. You have $20,000 in student loans and $5,000 on a car. It's about $25,000, and you wouldn't have all that baggage with the car. So just something to look at and consider. And it's not going to be the sexiest car in the world. It's not going to be, hey, this is a luxury vehicle, but it's going to be, okay, this is going to be my vehicle for the next 1 year or 2 years until I find a full-time job. I pay off my student loans, or those get forgiven, and then I'm in a spot and I go from negative $40,000 net worth to a positive net worth in under 12 months. That's a spot that you could be in if you sold the car, you got a cheap little beater Toyota, and you paid off your student loans the next 12 months once you get a full-time job. How did that make you feel?
I mean, honestly, that would be the dream, but the fear involved with it, like, you know, like
what's scarier? Is it being tied down by debt for the rest of your life, or the fear of taking action and not having a car payment and selling your car? What's scarier?
Well, see, that's the thing. I already have seen a life of being in debt, you know, like, it's like, that isn't something I haven't seen. It's not what I want, but like, it's already something I'm familiar with. So like, it's something that I feel like I could kind of scrape my way out of once I'm comfortable with that job. But like, I don't know why in my head it feels like I have to have a job before I sell a car. Like, you know, like it.
I think that's the opposite there, because that's part of your monthly expenses right now is the car. And since you don't have the money and income coming in, I want to get rid of it quicker. Because that car is not going to get you a new job. I mean, having the difference between a Tiguan and a 2010 car with 100,000 miles on it, it's not going to be the difference between whether you get a job or not.
It also just scares me though with like 100,000 mile car. Like, my first car was 100,000 miles and it crapped the bed really quick. So I don't want to buy another lemon. Like, that's.
I mean, they're definitely. I mean, used cars, you can get a bad one. I bought a used car. It had 60,000 miles on it. I bought it 9 years ago. It's got 190,000 miles on it, and it works good as new. There's a few issues here and there, like the back windows don't work, but I'm not going to pay $1,000 to get my back windows fixed when the only thing that sits back there is my dog.
Really?
So there are issues with some of them, but if you buy a good quality car, you get it inspected before you purchase it too. You take it to a mechanic and have them inspect it for a couple $100. And frankly, I don't have a Toyota. I have a Chevy, but Toyota Camrys, Toyota Corollas, I mean, those things last for ages. So would I say go buy a Jeep with 150,000 miles on it? Probably not. Would I say do that with a Toyota? I'd say your odds are in your favor.
Okay. Yeah, because I do trust Toyota. That was one of the brands I was looking for when I was thinking about making a switch from this one, but I don't want a small car.
You want to be uncomfortable in a small car, or do you want to be uncomfortable in debt? That's the question you have to answer. I can't decide that for you. I can only tell you what I would do if I was in your shoes. So
I hear you.
So let's talk through your monthly expenses right now. What you sent to me, you said $2,500 in monthly expenses, but then I also got your credit card statement that shows, where is it? You put $250 for food on your budget, but according to this, you have $750 a month in the last 30 days on food and alcohol. You have $350 worth on gas, about $150 in personal care, and $313 I categorize as other since I wasn't quite sure what it was.
I will say, I think that last month is a little bit of a outlier because I did make a road trip. So the gas might be a little freaking high because I don't usually drive that much. But otherwise, everything else is pretty accurate. I am trying to cut back. I used to be so good. I used to stay in, cook all my meals, be like not a hermit, but like, I used to have like so much more control when I had a job. And then I was like, I'm going to treat myself and I'm going to go out with people like so much more. And this was just stupid. Like,
that's one thing. And then you need to sit down and look at it. And I mean, right now, what I'm seeing, I mean, it's the credit card in the last 30 days was $1,612 in expenses, which is a heck of a lot more than the $360 that you put in your budget.
Yep.
Because the credit card statement doesn't have car insurance and the car payment on that. It just has all your eating out, entertainment, alcohol, food, personal expenses. So, I mean, that's putting you in the hole $1,000 a month, essentially, in terms of what you're bringing in versus what you're spending every single month. Does that scare you?
Yeah. I mean, I know that's bad. Like, that is definitely something that I'm working on actively right now. Like, cause I saw it last month and I definitely, I know it's time to just start taking that by the reins. Like,
have you made a budget yet? A monthly budget?
No. Like, it's making a budget isn't something that I'm good at. Maintaining once a budget is made, then I feel like cool. But like when I have to make it for myself, I'm always just like, I overthink it. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Can I say the F word or no?
We'll cut it out.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. But like, I feel like when I'm doing it for myself, then I'm like, I don't really, or like, it's hard for me to be honest with myself. But like when I do it for the podcast, then it's like, okay, this and this and that. Like, it's like when I'm like doing business things, it's so much easier for me to manage a budget. But when I'm doing it for my own personal expenses, it's hard for me to be honest with myself.
You gotta be honest with yourself, because if you're not measuring, if you're not tracking it, then you're gonna have months like this past month that you spent $1,600 when you're projecting $400 in expenses.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna find yourself just your money depleting out of your bank account. Hopefully you still have money from the severance stuff that you still have savings for that. And that's just going to be a spiral of depleting your savings over and over again. And even when you get a job, then you're not going to know where your money's going. You might think you are spending less money than you are, and then you're going to be spending more money than you even are bringing in even that instance. So, I mean, in my opinion, every single person needs to have a budget, whether you're making a couple $100s a month or you're making millions of dollars a month. So you need to have a budget because you need to know where your money's going. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a spot that your money's gone and you find yourself in debt, or you look up one day and say, oh, where'd all my money go? I thought I was saving money, and really like, oh, I spent it all last month on alcohol or on food or traveling to Hawaii or whatever it might be. So
yeah, I definitely am being a lot more aware of that recently.
I would challenge you after this, today, tomorrow, this weekend. I mean, by next Monday is like, sit down, figure out, okay, this is what my budget needs to be so that I'm not spending more than I'm bringing in on unemployment right now. And until I get a new job, this is what I need to spend in. Have check-ins every single week, at least once a week. See, what did I spend this last month? And okay, that's going to shape how much money I can spend on groceries next week or eating out, etc. And that way, until you get a job, you don't start pulling money from your savings on spending money on frivolous things or doing things that you don't currently need, like buying a new chair or buying a new couch or whatever it might be. That's not a necessity right now when you don't have a job. And there's plenty of tools and resources out there. I mean, there's apps like Mint that's free. There's Copilot. I think Copilot's paid. Every dollar has a free version. So there's different apps out there like Mint.com. I would highly recommend use that. And you can log in, you can add your bank account, your credit cards on there, and it will automatically start categorizing your stuff into food, into health, personal care, car payments, etc., and show you where all your money's going. So you can see, okay, I brought in $2,400 this month and I spent $3,000 on that. Where'd all my money go? Oh, it went on alcohol and food on my road trip last week, or whatever it might be. So it gives you at least an overview of where your money's going and what category it's going in.
Is Mint the one with Ryan Reynolds commercials?
That's Mint Mobile.
Okay.
Company, this is Mint.com. It's the personal finance app. And Mint is a finance platform to help track your expenses. It's a budgeting platform. It's owned by Intuit, I believe, which owns QuickBooks and TurboTax and MailChimp. But it's a platform I use. Link every single bank account, credit card, etc., investment accounts on there, and it tells you where your money's going, and you can at least track your spending every single month over month. I can go look and see what my expenses were 6 years ago. I can see what they were last week, etc. It has all the different transactions categorized on there. So
I'm writing that down.
And it's free. That's the best part. They have a paid version with to take the ads off and stuff, but personally, I use the free version, so it gets the job done.
Yeah, I don't really trust apps I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to do ancestry.com because I don't want the FBI knowing all my information, but I feel like they have it anyways. So like, might as well. Just
on the internet, your information is everywhere. So
yeah, I might as well just use mint.com.
we only have a few minutes left here. Had a few final questions for you. What would you say your biggest financial mistake you've made in your lifetime is?
My biggest financial mistake. God, I've just made so many. Well, the first one that comes to mind would be there was a guy that told me to sell my first car. You know how I mentioned it was a lemon? Mm-hmm. There was a guy that told me to get rid of it in the first week, and I didn't listen to him. And it was in the lemon law time period. And so I was so upset with myself because it was $11,000 freaking dollars. So it was, yeah, that was a big mistake that I ate, and it ended up getting me into this lease with this car. So that probably is another reason why I'm a little adamant of not wanting to get rid of this.
So that car is what spiraled you into the lease of the Tiguan, which now landed you in $20,000 of car loans. So I would agree then that is probably your biggest financial mistake, because it lets you, well, I think the financing of the car was the biggest mistake. It was, you came to that conclusion because you got in the lease and then didn't know what to do when the lease expired. But I guess cars are typically one of the biggest financial mistakes people make in their lifetime. And having $400 a month payment, $20,000 in a car loan is definitely a mistake that you learn from. You acknowledge that now. But now it's figuring out, how do I get out of this? How do I solve it? There's two routes you go, honest. There's a route of, hey, can I sell this car tomorrow and go get a car loan for $5,000 or $4,000 and get a $8,000 to $10,000 Toyota Corolla? Or there's a route of, hey, I need to get a new job and I need to figure out how can I, once I get that job, how do I pay this off in the next 12 months? Those would be my two suggestions on what to do. Some people sit here and say, hey, I'm just going to live with this financial decision for the next 5 years. And frankly, or 6 years, I guess, if the loan's the next 6 years, frankly, I think it's the worst thing to do, because then you're just going to have $400 a month coming out every single month of that car to the bank. And you're always going to have that hanging over your head, and it's not going to feel good. So I'm anti-car loans. I don't think they are beneficial when they're a big chunk of your monthly pay. Mm-hmm. And if you can't pay cash for it, then you shouldn't be buying it. So
yeah, I hear that.
The beautiful thing is you're young. You're 29 and
26.
26. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
26.
So young.
You're 26. You're young, and you have the ability to change this and figure out, okay, how do I get out of debt before I'm 30, before I'm 28? Honestly, you can get out of debt, out of this car loan and the student loans. You got the next 12 months, whether you sell the car, or you figure out, okay, let's get a $70,000 paying job and we pay off these two things in the next 2 years. That's something a spot you can do and you can be in that. And I have full faith that you can do it. You just have to put your mind to it and budget and spend appropriately and not, hey, let's go spend $1,600 when I'm budgeting $400 for this month on fun things. But you can change that around real quick and be in a spot when you're 28, 29 years old, debt free, and start saving towards retirement, start investing, and start building real wealth.
I just, it's hard not to sit with the weight of the mistakes. But, I always tell people, like,
no one's gonna get
still
rid of you. So the only person that's gonna do that is you. That's why I said don't depend on the government for erasing those loans, because no one's
still nice.
No one's doing anything in your best interest besides you.
That's true. Yeah, you got to be your own advocate.
No one's gonna erase that car loan for you. The bank sure as heck isn't gonna do that. They want you to have it. So,
but what was the other thing you wanted to ask?
Other thing, what advice would you give to someone in a similar spot as you?
Oh God. Well, one piece of advice I would give is if you're interviewing for a frickin' job and someone who is interviewing you says, here's a bunch of red flags, do you still want the position? Don't take the job, because that is exactly how my interview with HubSpot started. I love you, Julia. You're amazing. It was a great place to work, and I bet it's a great company. But, I'm just going to put some things on blast. It led me down to where I am today. And yeah, if anyone absolutely actually says red flags are ahead, watch out. Do not put on the rose-covered glasses. It is not the way to go.
You heard it from Simon, everyone. That is his hot take when it comes to job interviews. So red flags.
Oh yeah. If you see them, walk away, drive away, do whatever you got to do. Get on a moped, stay safe.
And lastly, what's your biggest lesson from this experience?
Well, I'd say I got two things. The biggest one is that I could actually sell my car, even though I just bought it. I didn't fully understand that. Even though I totally have seen my friends do it. Like, I have a friend who's in the military that bought a car that ended up not working out for him. And in the same year that he bought it, he ended up flipping it. So I'm pretty grateful that we actually ended up diving into that conversation. And secondly, like using mint.com as like a budgeting tool, because I feel like the hardest part for me with budgeting is actually categorizing stuff and not wanting to put in the work myself for my own credit cards of like, this is food, this is pleasure, this is, gas, this is that. So actually relying on those tools that are actually out there. So I'd say those are my two big takeaways.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you learned something, and we'll love to stay in contact moving forward. Let me know if you start looking at cars or you make a decision on that. If you want help or advice, I'm happy to just give you my honest feedback. If you see a car that you think I should buy, or you should buy, or you shouldn't do, and if you want to go start signing a loan for $30,000 or $40,000, please email me before that so I can tell you not to do it. Wishing you the best in finding a new job. I know you'll find one, and that will put you on a better footing and better path to getting out of debt and building a stable financial future. And really just appreciate your time today, Simon. And really appreciate you coming on board. So
yeah, thanks for having me. Honestly, I feel like I learned a lot about my own situation talking to you. So I'm very glad I hopped on today.
What's up, everybody? We just finished with Simon here. He currently is in a spot where he doesn't have a job, is living off unemployment, and he's got over $40,000 in card debt, student loan debt, and credit card debt. He's really got to find a new job to find some stable ground in his finances, and challenged him on thinking about selling the car. That obviously was not a wise financial decision to finance a $22,000 car when you lost your full-time job. So he needs to think about that. I'm hoping he would sell it and go find a beater $10,000 car that he can finance a couple of $1,000s for it and pay it off quickly, and really just needs to find a new job and start figuring out, okay, I need a budget and I need to make sure I'm not spending more money than I'm making. So hopefully he'll use the tools that I suggested to start a budget, stick to a budget, and track his spending, and start thinking about what's he going to do with that car. And then student loan debt, it sounds like he wants to wait to see what happens with the government. I would personally start figuring out, okay, what's my plan of attack here? Because can't just depend on the government paying off and wiping away all your dets that you signed up for. If I was him, once I get a new full-time job, I would be figuring out how do I pay those off as well as quickly as possible. So thanks for watching today, and email me if you want to be on the show, and we'll have conversations all about money, all about debt, about upcoming purchases, or if you just want to come on here and chat about money. So really appreciate your time. Share this with a friend, share this with your family, hit the subscribe button below, and we'll see you next time.